This is Math 4 for Eager Educators. It is for the April the 20th class, which is this coming Monday. Again, this is Math 4, and you are going to be working on page 263 to 272. So again, you have a little bit of review on equations, which remember we had those last week. And then you jump over to 265. Now 265 is teaspoons and tablespoons. You're probably already familiar with those. You use those in the kitchen all the time, whether you're helping grandma cook or you're fixing something for yourself. A teaspoon is a small spoon, and usually when you eat ice cream or cereal or chili or soup or anything like that, you use a teaspoon because it's a good size. If you try to eat with a tablespoon, you're going to get a bigger bite. Sometimes people do that anyway, but a teaspoon is normally what you would use. A teaspoon is about the size of a normal kitchen spoon. If you have 3 of those teaspoons and you measure, let's say you put sugar in each of those 3 teaspoons, combine all that together and that's 1 tablespoon. So a tablespoon will hold the contents of 3 teaspoons, okay? So you've got some, right, fill in the answers. They say, okay, if you've got 2 tablespoons, how many teaspoons is that? If you've got 4 tablespoons, how many teaspoons is that? Okay, so if you know 1 tablespoon is 3 teaspoons, then 2 tablespoons would be 6 teaspoons, and so forth. And they go in order, you 1, 2, 3, all the way to 12. Okay, and then you're gonna come down and find if you've got 24 teaspoons, how many tablespoons is that? Okay, so you would have to figure that out. And then you got a story problem. Okay, then on 267, we are introducing geometry. Okay, so geometry, you have lines, you have segments, you have points, you have angles, you have rays, things like that. So at the top of 267, it shows you all those things, what they look like, and some facts about them. Okay, the first one is a point, which is like a big period. Okay, that is where something is, that's a point. Okay, a line segment, if you see the line there, it's got 2 dots, one on each end. That means that is just a piece of a line. Okay, now the third one is a line. You see it's got 2 arrows, one on either end, which means if you're just talking about a line is going to keep going and keep going and keep going. It doesn't have a start, it doesn't have an end, it just keeps going. What makes that different from a line segment is the line segment has a starting point and an end point. It says, okay, we want to look at just this piece of the line, okay? A ray is similar to a line segment, but it has an arrow on one end, which means it's got a point where it starts, then it's got an arrow, which means it's going to keep going in this direction forever and ever, or it goes point here and it goes in that direction forever. Okay, then you have something called an angle. Okay, and angles are 2 rays put together and they have the same endpoint. Okay, so you could have an angle, one ray goes this way, one goes out that way. Right here where my 2 palms meet, that would be the point where they started. So they share that point, but they go off in different directions. Okay, a right angle is 90 degrees, which means it looks like a big L. If you take a piece of paper right here, this is a 90-degree angle or a right angle, okay, because it's 90 degrees, okay? If you have something that is congruent and it's in an angle, that means their degree is the same. Okay, like if you have something that's a congruent shape, that means they're the same shape. So with an angle, that means the angle is exactly the same shape. You know, if I've got two 90-degree angles, then they're congruent because they're both 90 degrees. If I've got ones that are smaller or ones that are bigger and they're both exactly the same, then they are congruent to each other. Okay? Intersecting lines. Let's say you're out there with grandma or grandpa and you're driving around Crossville. You come to a traffic light or you come to a stop sign. Why do we need those? Well, usually if you're going straight, there's another road that's going to come across. If you just keep going and you don't stop and somebody happens to be coming on that other road, chances are you're going to get hit. So that's why we have to have stop signs and we have to have traffic signals, because those roads intersect, which means they cross each other at some point. So those what are called intersections. Okay, so when we're talking about lines, we have intersecting lines because they cross each other at some point. Okay, now if you have a perpendicular line, that means one is going to go this way and one is going to come up and go this way. Okay, so they do meet right where they're joined, but they don't cross each other. They would cross each other if they kept going, both of them in two different directions. But perpendicular, you just have it at one point where it crosses. Okay, and where it is, let's say this right here, this is perpendicular to this. They share this point right here, but it doesn't go any further than that. So they share a right angle here, and they would share a right angle on the other side. So those are perpendicular if they share a right angle. Parallel is like two lines that cross, but they never touch. You know, they never meet up with each other. There's one down here, one up here. They both travel along the same place, but they never touch each other. Okay, so those are parallel lines. All right, so on 267, you've got rays, points, angles, line segments, perpendicular lines, parallel lines, right angles, and you're going to identify those and so forth. On 268, you just have some basic review. Okay, then on 269, we get further into geometry. So we've got some shapes. You've got at the top of 269, you've got a simple closed curve does not have a point of intersection. Okay, for example, this mouse right here, you can see it curves at some point. It's got some curves on it. Okay, these lines do not intersect each other. Okay, so they never cross. If you have just a circle, that never intersects with itself. Okay, like the letter L or a triangle, that is a closed curve and they don't intersect. Polygons are simple closed curves that are made up of line segments. So again, you could have your triangle, you could have a square, you could have a stop sign shape because they're made of line segments. You know, you couldn't have something that's round because if it's round, it does not have line segments. Okay, so did I turn that off or on? I turned it off. There. All right, so something that is a round shape does not have line segments. So a polygon is a simple closed curve that's made of line segments. A triangle is a polygon, okay? Because it's a closed curve It's made of line segments, right? But it's a polygon with 3 sides because a triangle has 3 sides. Quadrilateral. Quad means 4. So a quadrilateral is a polygon that has 4 sides. Okay? So you would have rectangles. You would have squares. You could have a rhombus, parallelogram, or a trapezoid. All those shapes are quadrilateral because they have 4 sides and they're made of like line segments, okay? When you talk about parallelograms, it's kind of a square, but it's like turned so that 2 of the lines are like diagonals. So you have 2 parallel sides. Okay, so these sides are parallel and then the straight sides are parallel. A rectangle has 4 right angles. Okay, a square has 4 equal sides because they're all the same size. A rectangle, you get 2 short sides and 2 longer sides. A rhombus is like a square that the whole thing has shifted. So all lines are a little bit diagonal and you have 4 equal sides, just like a square. Trapezoid only has 2 parallel lines, 2 parallel sides, because it's part triangle or part rectangle, but then the last side is at an angle. So it looks like a different kind of a shape. Okay, so then you're going to give names for some of these on 269, 270. 271 and 272 are just review. And if you have any questions or anything, just let me know. Keep in mind that we have 1 more week after this, and we will touch base with you next week. See you later.